Welcome to Rottingjewels. My name is Dana. For new visitors, I have almost 2 years worth of what I like to call active research on the topic we're going to discuss today on my YouTube channel, and I will link that in the description along with my link tree. For returning ears and eyes, especially those asking about a book, let's see if I can get my thoughts in order first, shall we? Today, we are going to begin a long journey of challenging the public consumption narratives of the Process Church of the Final Judgment. You might have heard of them, or may know them under their modern-day iteration, the Best Friends Animal Society, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. In order to challenge the aforementioned public consumption narrative, as in the narrative spoon-fed to the public, we need an idea of how they came to be, what they believe, what they strike down as satanic panic conspiracy theories, and why they try to distance themselves from the humble 37,700-acre animal sanctuary tucked away in what was once referred to as Little Hollywood in Kanab, Utah. We begin this journey by asking one question.
What is the process?
Oh, must we drag all that up again?
Is it old to the death? Better hold your breath. In this cell, I prevail. Freddy said from hell, ring the bell. When you're finished, I'm a grown man and win it. Sacrifice it to the demons. Know I love it when you screaming. Commit to your thought. Do it now while you lost in the darkness. You will never wake up so conscious, anxious. Why are you so scared of feeling pain, bitch? Devil in your soul, cut it now and then you'll go. Walk on the dark path, kill and you feel that. Never in your life you gotta rush from the kickback. Matt Blank, Glock 10, knife on the neck, man. Hear the whispering, devil taking over them. Listen to my words of Freddy telling do the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling do the devil's work. All red on me, got the blood up in your hair. Sign your soul to the devil, now you asking is it fair? Listen to my words of Freddy telling do the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling do the devil's work. All red on me, got the blood up in your hair. Sign your soul to the devil, now you asking is it fair?
Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's
And then about 2 years later, he reappeared with this new wife of his, MaryAnn. And then that was, of course, the start of everything, the start of the process.
Today, dear listener, we are going to discuss the ultimate match made in hell, Robert and MaryAnn de Grimston. The mythos surrounding the couple at the helm of the process has been largely pushed by the late Timothy Wiley and his fellow processians, going a little something like this. The two Scientologists became disenchanted with L. Ron Hubbard, running away with an e-meter in hand. MaryAnn used her womanly wiles to convince her new husband Robert to change their last name to de Grimston before creating the Process Church of the Final Judgment. This is wildly inaccurate, and some of the lore that we're going to discuss about MaryAnn herself has never been proven. I don't think that it's unfair of me to describe Timothy Wiley nor his fellow processians as unreliable narrators. Hopefully, I will be able to lay out a documented argument as to why that is. At the end of the day, much of this appears to be the rumor mill. We're going to read a few examples of this possibly purposeful disinformation campaign, maybe posit some theories as to the purpose behind it, and correct the record. I will be using a few different sources today. Jehovah, MaryAnn de Grimston, and the Process Church of the Final Judgment by Christian Giudice, Love, Sex, Fear, and Death, sections from Adam Parfrey and from Timothy Wiley, Ed Sanders' book, The Family, some of Ed's research notes that I retrieved from his archive at Princeton University, as well as official registry records, and a few newspapers here and there. Because, as the old saying goes, the truth is much stranger than fiction. We're going to start with Wiley's account of who MaryAnn was in Love, Sex, Fear, and Death. Born illegitimately to a Scottish mother and an alcoholic father MaryAnn never knew, she had been largely abandoned to live with relatives. After a wretched and unloved childhood in the slums of Glasgow, she made her way down to London, where she fell under the sway of a group of Maltese pimps. A young life of having to fend for herself must have awarded her the necessary skills to give men what they both wanted and deserved. Although she wouldn't have wished for this to become public knowledge at the time, she appeared in the telling to be quite proud and unashamed of her life as a high-class call girl, with the emphasis, naturally, on high class. She boasted, too, of her time in America on the arm of boxer Sugar Ray Robinson.
He won 126 fights while losing only once.
Stock goes down for the third time.
I say I'm the greatest heavyweight of all time, but pound for pound, I still say Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest of all time.
And the many high-level and powerful men she had met in her calling. It's been suggested in some recent articles that MaryAnn might have had some involvement with the Profumo Affair, the sex scandal that brought down a cabinet minister and the conservative government.
John Perfumo, British Secretary of War, resigns his post. The resignation creates a sensation. Follows revelations that Perfumo had sex with an alleged prostitute named Christine Keeler, who at the same time was having sexual relations with a Soviet naval officer. The Perfumo scandal threatened to topple Prime Minister Harold Macmillan's government, though to many foreign observers the uproar seemed preposterous. Dr. Stephen Ward, an osteopath, was charged with running a sex ring and arranging trysts between young girls like Mandy Rice Davis and prominent officials. 21-year-old Christine Keeler denied prostitution charges. She later went to prison for perjury. Dr. Ward committed suicide.
Before I joined the process, I'd bumped into Christine Keeler, one of the two call girls called as witnesses, who had heard nothing of MaryAnn. Besides, I'm perfectly certain that had she played a part in the scandal, she'd have been only too ready to tell us about it. It was often difficult to know whether MaryAnn was exaggerating about the people and events in her life, or indeed plain old making it all up. I certainly believed her in the moment. Yet, there's no record, for example, of her ever marrying, as the story went, Sugar Ray, and his son assures us that to his knowledge there was never a MaryAnn in his father's life. And now an interesting discrepancy in I, Jehovah, discussing the early years with Robert and MaryAnn. MaryAnn, on the other hand, had grown up in a very poor area of Glasgow and had learned to fend for herself since a very early age, her father abandoning the household soon after her birth, while her mother repeatedly entrusted her to the care of relatives. According to some sources, and they cite Maury Terry's The Ultimate Evil, 1987, MaryAnn had traveled to the USA and had become engaged to boxing legend Sugar Ray Robinson before moving back to London, and had become embroiled in the Profumo Affair, a prostitution ring scandal initiated by a sexual liaison between 19-year-old Christine Keeler and British Secretary of State for War John Perfumo. These wild allegations have been put to rest by Wiley, who, when interviewed by myself, replied, "MaryAnn told us everything that she had done. Had she been involved in the Perfumo scandal, we would have been the first to know." Here is just one example of Timothy Wiley talking out of two sides of his mouth. First, he claimed MaryAnn told him of her marriage with Sugar Ray herself, and yet this wild allegation, as the author claims, comes from the late Maury Terry's Ultimate Evil. What is the truth? That's for you to decide, dear listener, but this is just one of countless examples of conflicting information presented to the public that disparages certain authors, namely Ed Sanders and Maury Terry. This is a question that we will posit again and again. In regards to Perfumo, from Ed Sanders' archives at Princeton's correspondence between Maury Terry and Ed, file titled Profumo Book Led to MaryAnn, July 12, 2004. Dion, all day, all night, MaryAnn. Down by the Thames, just beating man. Honey Trap co-author Stephen Dorrell sent that FOIA on MaryAnn and Robert de Grimston to the Justice Department in 1988, between the times of the publication of the hardcover, mid-87, and paperback of the book. It seems quite likely that Dorrell and co-author Anthony Summers were zeroing in on MaryAnn as that Glasgow woman ID'd in that manner in the paperback, which was published in 1989 without the Justice Department providing anything of substance to them. It's even possible her name was in one of those other official reports they saw, or that someone leaked her name to them after the hardcover came out. Logic says that's most likely the case. It's worth noting that the Dorrell FOIA request was not about the process per se, just about MaryAnn and Bobby. This new info on MaryAnn is all very important to this entire investigation for reasons I'm sure I don't have to list. There are now new paths to explore as the inner workings of this operation are really taking shape now. The intel connection seems assured, just as there was an intel connection to the Perfumo matter, and also a very sensitive JFK tie to that case. It may not hurt to remember that JFK was killed only about 5 months after the Perfumo scandal broke. Roy Cohn was in the Perfumo picture, and he also appears in the overall Dion inquiry in many ways, just like J. Edgar Hoover does, a close pal of Cohn. End of this report. That is about the extent of the Perfumo angle that I'm going to include for the time being, as this is meant to highlight more so that both Ed and Maury were approaching these subjects seriously, together and independently, for decades. I can't state that what Wiley claims about MaryAnn's childhood is false, because we don't know. There's a copy of her birth certificate floating around online, and I've been unsuccessful in my attempts to track down her family. What Wiley documents throughout his Watchers series later on, in regards to MaryAnn's sexual authoritarianism over the group, does lend credence to the fact that she may have indeed grown up way too fast, exposed to situations no child should be exposed to. Unfortunately, we may never know. So, what is true about this dynamic duo? From Love, Sex, Fear, and Death, Adam Parfrey. Robert and MaryAnn hijacked a Scientology e-meter and struck out on their own with a group called Compulsions Analysis, combining Scientology auditing techniques with Alfred Adler-style psychotherapy to dig deeper into the dynamics of self-actualization. Under MaryAnn's urging, Robert broke up his marriage, changed his last name to de Grimston, and brought in his architecture school friend Timothy Wiley as a guinea pig for e-meter, later renamed Peace-Scope, test after the Process Church found its name. I'm not singling out Adam Parfrey here because this is essentially established lore surrounding the process. Was MaryAnn's womanly ways so powerful that she became both a home wrecker and a cult leader at once? The answer is no.
A stranger in the black sedan, won't you hop inside my car? I got pictures, got candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star. I'm your vehicle, baby, I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman, by now I'm sure you know that I love you, I need you, I want you, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. Hollywood. But if you want
car. I got pictures, candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star. I'm your vehicle, babe. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. By now I'm sure you know that I love you, I need you, I want you, I got to have you. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. And I'm your vehicle, babe. Alright. You know I love you, I need you, I want you, got to have you, child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you.
In the spirit of being unbiased, I'm going to read an excerpt from Ed Sanders' book, The Family, the original publication. In discussing the Process Church of the Final Judgment, Ed Sanders says, it was formed by two fierce occult death freaks, MaryAnn McLean de Grimston Moore and Robert Sylvester de Grimston Moore. At his wife's suggestion, they drop the name Moore, except when they want to travel incognito, and do so using the surname Moore. She is now around 40, if she is still alive, and he is around 36 years of age. MaryAnn de Grimston is a baleful lady who dotes on groveling followers. She has assumed various names, such as Hecate and the Oracle, and possibly Cirque. Both are devout reincarnationists. According to one account, MaryAnn de Grimston believes she is the reincarnation of Goebbels.
In noch niemals dagewesenen Millionen Demonstrationen hat sich am heutigen Tage die ganze deutsche Nation zur Arbeit, zu ihrem Wert, zu ihrem sittlichen Ethos und zu ihrer nationalen Verbundenheit bekannt.
But in the era of Manson, she was known as Hecate, an apt appellation. Hecate, in ancient lore, was the queen of ghost and magic. She haunted crossroads. She was attended by hellhounds. She was the protectoress of enchanters and witches. Robert de Grimston is thought by the cult to be Christ. He was born on August 10, 1935 in Shanghai, China. Before waxing weirdo, de Grimston studied architecture. Bob and MaryAnn met at the Hubbard Institute of Scientology on Fitzroy Street, London, in 1963 or 1964.
St. Hill is a nice place. Scientologists are very friendly and honestly believe that they can help whoever goes to them. But scientists would have just as much difficulty with the beliefs of Scientology as they do with virgin births and resurrections from the dead.
They had been training to become Scientology auditors or instructors.
Now, an auditor in Scientology must have beingness and a good IQ. What other talents does he require to be a good auditor?
Well, a person has to have very, very good moral fiber, you might say. He has to, you can't, and we will not take anybody who has even faintly bad background and so forth as an auditor. He has to be pretty well educated. His general education certificate, something like that. He has to have a desire to help people, and this is not everyone.
You said just now a bad background. In Scientology, what is good and bad? Does it conform to the normal moral standards of society?
Oh yes, very much so. Very much so. Same.
As a quick aside, it's interesting to consider if L. Ron Hubbard means anything that's coming out of his mouth, because what we do know about MaryAnn, she doesn't meet these markers. But there are a lot of strange rumors about her and Robert and their time with L. Ron Hubbard. Let's get back to Ed Sanders. They were married in 1964 and left the Hubbard Institute a few months later to seek some sort of spiritual salvation together. I would like to point out for my own edification that it was Ed pointing out the removal of the surname Moore that actually allowed me to be able to find the marriage records of Robert and MaryAnn and dispel this myth. Robert de Grimston was indeed born in Shanghai to Mr. and Mrs. Oswald Moore. It's worth noting on the ship manifest showing a young Robert traveling from Shanghai with his family. His father was employed by John Swire and Sons Limited, which was heavily implicated in opium trafficking at the time. And Robert's grandfather, the Reverend Charles Moore, was a clerk in the Holy Orders under the Vatican, who was also traveling back and forth to Shanghai as far back as 1926. These are just things to consider in regards to possible intelligence connections. From Jehovah. Born in Shanghai, Robert had relocated to Britain in his infancy. In private school, Robert had received a very strong Christian upbringing. Upon ending his period in public school, Robert was drawn to military life and first joined the Life Guards Display Cavalry Unit, but quickly transferred to the 15th King's Royal Hussars. According to Moore, they cite William Sims Bainbridge's book, Satan's Power, A Deviant Psychotherapy Cult. It was there that he developed an aristocratic poise and a dignified bearing, great assets for the charismatic leader of a cult. I've only been able to find one example of proof of Robert being in the service, which we'll discuss in a moment. Robert has 3 siblings, one being a fellow Processian by the name of Andrew Moore, also known as Father Phineas, but we will come back to him at another time. Without going through the painstaking details of genealogy of Robert's family, his sister, Barbara Moore, who was born on December 14th, 1933, was actually the goddaughter of Lady Armitude Wachter de Grimston. The Evening Standard, March 9th, 1953. This is where the name de Grimston comes from. We also have Robert using the surname de Grimston almost 10 years before he and MaryAnn get together. From the London Gazette, May 10th, 1955, RAC, Regular Army, Short Service Commander, Cadet Robert Sylvester de Grimston Moore to be 2nd Lieutenant, April 2nd, 1955. So, what gives? Why is this provable lie still espoused by Processians, both old and new? What is there to gain from the obfuscation of Robert and MaryAnn's relationship?
Some plans for tonight, and then I stop and say, alright. Love is kinda crazy with a spooky little boy like you. You always keep me guessing, I never seem to know what you are thinking. And if a girl looks at you, it's for sure your little eye will be confused, I never know where I stand. And then you smile and hold my hand. Love is kinda crazy with a spooky little boy like you. Spooky. Stop this little game that you are playing. I'm gonna tell you all the things my heart's been dying to be saying. Just like a ghost, you've been haunting my dreams, but now I know you're not what you seem. Love is kinda crazy with a spooky little boy like you. Spooky.
Did MaryAnn cause the divorce of Robert and his first wife? From Ed Sanders Archives at Princeton University and the High Court of Justice, Robert Sylvester de Grimston Moore, petitioner, and Amelia Francesca Moore, and David Rayner Garner, respondent and co-respondent, referring to the decree made in this cause on the 11th day of June 1964, whereby it was decreed that the marriage had and solemnized on the 14th day of July 1960 at the Church of Our Lady of Victories in the District and Royal Borough of Kensington between Robert Sylvester de Grimston Moore, the petitioner, and Amelia Francesca Moore, then Montaldi, spinster. The respondent be dissolved by reason that the respondent has been guilty of adultery with the co-respondent, David Garner. Said decree was on this 16th day of September 1964 made final and absolute, and that the said marriage was thereby dissolved. So, a little bit of controversy. Was Amelia stepping out on Bobby? Who really knows? What we do know, based on the records available, is that the narrative between Robert and MaryAnn is patently false. Timothy Wiley makes no bones about the fact that his mother, Diana, worked for British intelligence. I've been able to confirm this in the 1939 England and Wales Register. She worked for the Department of Economic Warfare. There has been much speculation about MaryAnn working for British intelligence, and I think that it's a fair conversation to have. I found a very interesting comment from the Vysop blog. It is an anonymous comment. It reads, August 17th, 2020. In the posthumous penultimate volume of his Urantia knockoff cum memoristic Rebel Angel series, catnip to Golden Age San Francisco aficionados, I must profess, but works that should be contextualized alongside the research of Recluse/Snyder, Emery et al. Keep that grain of salt handy. Wiley finally offers what the Baron from The Other Side of the Wind would doubtless characterize as a limited declaration. There can be no doubt that it was British intelligence who facilitated MaryAnn's freedom of movement, either by giving her special permission or, more likely, by conveniently making the relevant records disappear. Naturally, this revelation is ascribed to the angelic companion who facilitated his pulpy Urantia riffs. You can take the probable intelligence asset out of the process, but the Baroque Processian cosmology endures in different guises. I think that it's an interesting observation. I have not been able to find that quote specifically in the final book in Timothy Wiley's series. As we move through different Processians and different timelines and their family histories, we're going to see ties to intelligence or spycraft, however you would like to refer to it, the intelligentsia, military medicine. I like to call the process the most elitist cult in the world, because the further back that you dig, while they may have taken anybody off the street, like one Charles Manson or one David Berkowitz, who, it could fairly be stated, didn't have a fancy upbringing, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The founders themselves, sans the elusive MaryAnn, all have ties to some of the oldest societies and money, not only in the UK, but in the United States as well. Hopefully, this episode has dispelled some of the mythos around the match made in hell that is Robert and MaryAnn de Grimston. We have much more to discuss about their time in Scientology, the process, and beyond, but I would like to return to Adam Parfrey as we close out. In his acknowledgments, he thanks a multitude of people, including Timothy Wiley, Genesis Peorage, and the like. Interestingly enough, he thanks Doug Messner, aka Lucian Greaves of the Satanic Temple, and again, William Morrison of Skinny Puppy. Adam Parfrey, here we are, worldwide droughts, bringing on catastrophic reductions in food production, global monetary breakdowns, restless masses, fundamentalist battles for nuclear weapons. It's a process church world once again, perhaps even more so.
Watch out!